know, why did you become a coach? I mean, because obviously, you know, you played at a really high level, and I suppose it's a sort of natural progression and stuff like that. But you know, there's something about coaches, isn't there? There's something about you guys that are just on a different level, you know. So
it came about by necessity, really. When I look back, when I was playing, I was probably about 5 years too late, because the club was brilliant and it had an incredible setup with top players left, right, and centre from the club. And I caught the tail end of that. But by the time I got to a standard where I was good enough to maybe give them a bit of practice, they'd all got to that age where they're all stopped. And it left this big void. And there was nobody near my standards. Well, there was one player roughly my standard, but we kept away from each other, which was a stupid thing when I look back now. But out of necessity, I just found somebody who would turn up every day, regardless, work the socks off, and do as I asked. And that player was Mark Simon, actually. I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning his name. And he's an incredibly good friend of mine and a really great guy. But he was a lot worse at the time. Like back then it was up to 21 with the old ball and everything.
Yeah, proper table tennis.
I would probably have started beating him round about game 2s and 3s when I started practicing with him. But he was so reliable, and I needed to get in better as quick as I could. So it kind of just evolved from that. I started coaching him, so I had somebody better to practice with, and I think that was the start of me coaching. And at the end of it, I mean, he probably ended up doing better than I did, because he played. I'm sure he played for his country. He's from he's Welsh. He certainly represented in some form, and he was quite a decent player at the end. So that was the start of it. And then secondly, from then on, I just loved helping people, and that's why I coach now today. I love helping people improve. It doesn't matter in what format. Somebody can be 70, 80-year-old, and if they still want to improve, I love that. I absolutely love the fact that I can help, or hopefully help them improve. And that's what I get out of coaching. You know, it doesn't matter what level. If I can help them get them better, and they enjoy it, even if it's just to get more enjoyment or to get more social from it, that'll do me. I'm happy with that, you know. So necessity firstly, secondly, just for the fact that to help people improve.
That's brilliant. I mean, because I've watched stuff with you with Dennis.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what was that like?
Dennis, I like Dennis. I get on fairly well with Dennis, and I actually got him back at the club doing bits of coaching at the time. So he was there, not full time like he is now. I actually asked him to come back, and he's really good to work with, to be quite honest. He's great in your corner, and he's good to work with, and obviously extremely knowledgeable.
Yeah, I mean, it's just some of the stuff. I mean, I watched a few bits and pieces where you were in there as well and stuff, and it's just so full of knowledge, isn't he? I mean, it's just there, isn't it? You know, everything. You know,
what I like about Dennis's coaching is it's very simplistic. So this is how it is, and that's it. It's like it's A, B, and C, and that's it. He doesn't flower it up at all or anything like that. So I quite like, you know, he's not for everybody, but I actually get on with him quite well.
I like that sort of coaching. I like the sort of, this is how you do it, this is how it's done, that's how you do this is how you get that. You know, it's direct. You know, it's
he's very much like that. Yeah, very much.
No, that's cool. Okay, Rory.
Okay, so yeah, a bit similar to Steve. I started playing quite late. I was 15 when I started playing, and I started playing in school. Well, I played in France on holiday first, but then I started playing in school. And I got into kind of coaching because after the kind of first year of me playing, I was the best in the school, and the younger pupils in the school who were starting off. There weren't so many people to practice with, so I was trying to get them up to my level so I could have someone to practice with, a bit like what Steve was saying. So that's where it first started. Then when I was like 18, 19, went to university, joined a club. Again, there weren't so many people to play with in the club. There were some very good players who wouldn't practice with me. I still wasn't particularly good at that age. And so I went along. I knew there were some good juniors. I went along to the junior session, and the coach said to me that I could practice with some of the top juniors who were, a little bit better than me at the time, in return for me helping him with some of the kind of beginnery lesser juniors. So I did that for a while, and then I started. I became the kind of captain of the team at Trinity College Dublin, and I kind of did a bit of coaching with some of the beginner students in the university. And then when I came to England, then it kind of kicked off. I got coaching qualification, my club Hollingbury, which when I joined, they put me through a course. Then I started up a kids session at Brighton University, where I was studying pharmacy at the time, and in fact, when I got there, there was nothing there at all, and we got a grant for 4 tables, and I had like 3 sessions going, and teams in the league, and junior sessions within the space of a few months of turning up in the country. So yeah. And then I did volunteer, and that was all volunteer coaching. I did volunteer coaching for about 5 years, maybe start to charge like a very small amount towards the end of that 5 years. And then I was going to do a PGCE to become a teacher. And I randomly got this call from Ian Ford, Horsham District Council. He rang me up and asked me, was I interested in becoming a full-time table tennis coach? And I said, what? I hadn't really considered it up to that point. I'd just been doing it as a bit of fun, part-time, not even charging. So anyway, I said, yeah, that'd be interesting. Kind of met with him. He had funding, various grants from the council, and he set me up in a whole lot of different school sessions and the main club session. So I did that for Horsham Table Tennis Club for about 4 years. Well, I was kind of doing it. I did it actually for 6 years, but the last 2 years was partially self-employed and still partially working with him. And then in 2011, I just decided to start up my own table tennis club, Horsham Spinners Table Tennis Club, and yeah, it's gone from there. Just as my job now. Well, it's been my job since 2005, so 15 years of full-time coaching.
And Horsham Spinners is pretty successful now. I mean, you've got quite a lot of juniors coming through. You've got British League teams. You've got like all sorts of stuff.
Senior British League teams, National Junior League, National Cadet League, local league teams. We did have players that won the national schools finals under 11s. Then they went on to win it at under 13s, and then they won it at under 16s last year. Unfortunately, we're kind of going through a lull at the moment where a lot of these players have either gone too old or they've quit for whatever reason. But we've got about 15, kind of maybe 20, about 20 if you include the under 11s of players, and we're trying to build back up again. But yeah, we'll get there again. This is my background is a picture of my club session. So
yeah, it's good. It sounds as though you're sort of gaining sort of strength and depth, really, by the sounds of it.
Yeah, we've got a lot of players who play in the league that don't come down to the club sessions as well. So it's kind of we kind of cater for them as well. So
cool.
Very nice.
All right. Well, Ellie.
Okay. For me, it's simple. I just one day decide I'm going to be a coach. No, I'm kidding. Well, like most of these guys, I started actually also a little bit late, age 14, and that was because of a film called Forrest Gump, and something just sparked me from that film. So I went on to become a player, and I've always been into sports. I've never been a great academic. And I was always fascinated how these superhumans were so great. How are they so good? Well, what are they doing? So I would try to study, even at a young age, or try to understand what's happening. It can't be just, it's not magic. It can't just be special like this. So I started to look into what's making them special, and I found that the biggest, what I think is the biggest key ingredient, was the coach. The coach was the one that was able to enhance their abilities and make them superhuman. So obviously I became a player, and I would ask all the top players, "Who's your coach? Who's your coach?" I'll be hunting around who their coaches are, and I would try and get one of those coaches to be my coach. And often it would be someone from Manchester, from Liverpool, from all over the place, but it wasn't from the area that I wanted. And the area that I wanted, the so-called top coaches were gone. So I kept asking around, and one day I found one player who was moving up the ranking fast like I was. And I said to him, "Who's your coach?" So he said to me, "Gideon Asherson." I said, "Where's he based?" He said, "In London." So I thought, fantastic. I go to school in London. I'll catch the train. I'll get there. So I contacted him, obviously, and I said, "Can I join you?" He said, "With pleasure." So I joined him, and I started training with this kid, and I saw Gideon's passion and love. And he's going to hate me for saying this, but he wasn't the most highly technical coach in the world. But he possessed something far more important. He cared. He genuinely cared. And that caring came across to all the players that were there. It was very small. We used to train in a shed, and we also trained in his community. He lived in like a council estate, and they had like a community little hall. So we had one table, and with all the kids and the players that would come there would have to share that one table. And that one table became, the table time became cherished.
Yeah.
It was very, very important. That 10 minutes that you had to give it everything. So he taught us discipline. He taught us to fight for what you believe in. And players that came down there were top juniors. Marco Samba, you might have heard of maybe in your time, not sure. And obviously Darius Knight, most people will have heard of him nowadays. Yeah. And I was about 7-8 years old than Darius, and there was a couple of others. There was Chris Lewis and a couple of others. And I basically started coaching them because they weren't as good as me. They were youngsters, so similar to the other guy's stories. And they progressed very quickly, and that enabled me to train with them. And then I decided, okay, I need more. So I went abroad and I trained abroad, and I saw what a professional structure looked like. There was a professional coach, there was a few assistant professional full-time coaches, and my eyes were opened. It was 30 tables, that one club that I went to. It was just magnificent. Anyway, so unfortunately, the amazing coach that I did have in France was a bit harsh, and he's basically said to me, "Look, you're never going to be a top player. You might as well give up. Not give up, but don't have these big dreams." Because I had big dreams, and I'm happy to admit it. I wanted to be a world champion, and so once he kind of, I think we all do. I just see deep down, I think we all have that. So, so basically, once he said that to me, it was a bit of a realization, okay, maybe I need to find a new pathway in life. So I went back to England, and I was lost. Didn't quite know which direction I'm going to go into. My family wanted me to go to university and, get a so-called normal job. And Gideon said to me, "Look, I'm probably going to be retiring. Would you be interested in coaching? I've seen you work with the kids. You're great. You're enthusiastic, and you've got my knowledge and the French knowledge now, and you can combine it." So he offered me his job, which was at King's College School down in South London, Wimbledon. And I took that on board, and I just really enjoyed it. It was a great experience for me. And I got a little bit of success. And I think, like anything, once you get a bit of success, then you thrive for more. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Barnet Tipton Centre, I was living in around that area anyway. I used to train there sometimes. They said to me, "Look, we're not too happy with our coach. Would you be interested in taking the role?" And I jumped onto it, and I had huge success there. I had about 10 England squad players within a couple of years, 2-3 years, youngsters, aged between 9 and 13. Players like Zach Zeleznik, who was number 1, and Tintin, who is number 1 now, and her brother, who was number 2 or something. I had, like I said, amazing squad. And then the England coaches said like, hey, who's this kid out of nowhere producing all these little ones? So they invited me to coach at the England squad, and I did that with, you know, the likes of Liam Pitchford, Gavin Evans, Sam Walker, all that kind of group. And again, great experience for me, and I was able to talk to all the England coaches, and I was put on performance coaching seminars. And then all of a sudden, I get a phone call from a school which had just been built for a performance sports for all sports. They had the Watford Football Club there. They had the table tennis program which they just wanted to develop. So they called me up, said, are you interested? Yes, cool. So then I went and had a full-time program in the school. And then again, I managed to produce many top players, and we won many championships, and we became 6th best school in the world. And that's basically kind of like the pathway of how it all began. But I have to say, Gideon was, if it wasn't for him saying, hey, do you want to coach at this school? I would never be coaching today. Yeah, definitely him. So coach made the coach.
Coach made the coach. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Henry.
Oh, so completely different really from Ellie, and a little bit more like Rory, to be fair. To be honest, I never saw myself getting into any kind of coaching role when I was younger, even my 20s really. I worked in retail management, and I decided I needed to change. I'd had enough of working weekends and evenings, which doesn't make sense now, obviously, if that's what I do. But I decided I needed to change. So I thought, what kind of job would I like to do? I thought, you know what, I want to become an accountant. So to become an accountant meant studying evening classes. So I had to quit my job and went to work in a factory, doing 6 till 4 every day. So I could do the evening class to become an accountant. 3 months into working in this factory, the machine I was working with malfunctioned and crushed me, and then it almost died. Whisked off to hospital, broken bones and everything internally and all that kind of stuff. And it put me out of sport completely for a long time. So that happened on my 33rd birthday. Put me out of sport for a long time. I spent probably a year on the sofa at home, a bit like I'm doing now with the furlough, playing PlayStation, eating fudge and Pringles. But within that, I started just looking into table tennis. So table tennis, for me, had always been my second sport behind football. So I played it, did okay locally, but I'd never really been my main sport. But while I was off, I started looking, YouTube and everything a bit more about table tennis and understanding more about the bigger picture. Because I only really understood local league, maybe county, nothing out of that. And from that, although I still couldn't really play, I went back to my club at Corby Town to help the coach there. So Tom Cardwell, who had been my coach when I started. Tom's still doing it now. He's 80 odd years old, or he's 81 now. But I went back to assist him in the sessions he was doing with, 6, 7 kids that they had. And that's kind of how I got into coaching. So it wasn't really, planned. I kind of fell into it. But then I started understanding, say, the coaching and the bigger world of table tennis. And I thought, we haven't had that in my town, that people understanding the wider world of table tennis. So I thought, I'm going to try and see if I can start building that. And it's been, I suppose, successful, really. So I think I was 30, probably 35, 34, 35 when I sort of first started assisting at my local club. And from that, obviously, I did the qualifications, level 1, level 2 qualifications, and now obviously the level 3. But my first sort of paid job was working in conjunction with the county council doing the ping project. So I did the ping project in Ketchen and Northampton. And then I started working with my local council, Corby Council, not in table tennis, but multi-sports. So I worked in primary schools doing multi-sports coaching. And I started also working with what used to be called Premier Sport, now called Premier Education Group. So same kind of thing as what I was doing with Corby Council, lots of different kinds of multi-sports. Enjoying it, getting lots of knowledge about different sports. And then Corby Smash came out. So Corby Smash opened, January 2016. I first spoke to Colin Wilson and Tony West, who were the people behind it, about August 2015 maybe. And started working for them sort of January 2016. That's when I became full-time table tennis, and I knocked all the other sports stuff on the head. So I was doing like rugby for under sevens and lots of different things, archery, but yeah, then sort of went specific to table tennis. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Very nice.
Pretty sporty then, really.
I probably was a better coach than I was a sportsman. Yeah, or at least I hope I am. Anyway, I say from a playing perspective, I never took the game really seriously until I'd had that accident at work, and when I came back and gradually built my my fitness up, and actually started getting found a coach to give me some lessons to improve me. And I had a goal where I just wanted to get picked for my county team. That was my goal, and I reached that goal, and I was very, 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 very pleased.
But I mean, you still played. I mean, you're still a top player, and you still played at a pretty high standard, mind.
Yeah, but yeah, no, okay, yeah, and but I think for me, I'm one of those players who hopefully can prove that you're never too old as well.
Yeah.
I definitely got better as I turned around the 40 mark, and the reason I got better, I was taking it seriously, and I was practicing and training. So
hope for me, yeah. There's hope for me, yeah.
There's no secret to improving, is there?
No, it's true.
Elroy there obviously says he had a long breakout. So myself and Elroy were teammates in British League a few years ago as well.
Yeah.
Along with Sam Wilson, who's now number 12, 13 in England seniors.
Yeah, pretty hot, isn't he?
Amazing how much he improved in that 3 years maybe.
Short space of time.
Yeah.
So there is a secret of improving then.
There is, yeah, and there's no age limit on it either, by the sounds of it.
Plenty of our body can take it.
Yeah, yeah. So, Elroy.
Okay, well, my first spell of coaching was as a teenager, and the success of Luton Table Tennis Club didn't just happen like that. My first club was as a teenager in London, Battersea, Providence House Table Tennis Club. And I brought the club from Division 6 to Division 1.
Amazing.
And every year I was the highest average.
Yeah.
And went back to Jamaica for a while. And in the team, I was the person who always kind of guiding the rest of the players. I was the best player in the team. So I was always coaching them, practicing, knocking. And then I went on to be a professional boxer. And so I had a 21-year absence. And as I said, when I came back, which is 4 years ago, 2015. Yeah, and the club I joined, Vauxhall Table Tennis Club, I realized that the average age was 60. And as I said, at 44, I was one of the youngest in the league, one of the youngest in the club.
That's nuts, isn't it?
And it to be honest, it was kind of a negative vibes for me, because I'm thinking, I come back to this game and there's no youngsters.
Where's all the youngsters gone?
Yes, but then I started to travel a bit, and I realized that it's a problem all over the UK.
Yeah.
It's a big problem in Luton. And I have to do something about it. I did approach the coach at Vauxhall, and I said, can you start the club 1 hour earlier so I can coach some of the youngsters? But they're not interested, because they want the table time for themselves. So I decided that I'm going to do something about it. And
that's when I started searching and searching. And at the time, I was involved with Lucy Farm Learning Center because I also do music promotions. So I used to do promotional music events at the center.
Right.
And I saw the opportunity. And that's when I set up Luton Table Tennis Club.
So your aim was to try and just bring some more youngsters into it.
More youngsters. Yeah. That was my main aim, and that's the history. And
because I mean Ellie's been at your club a few times, I think, hasn't you, Ellie?
Loads.
I'll tell you how me and Ellie meet quickly. I phoned Gideon because when Gideon just started, I was the person who used to knock with Gideon and get him to learn the game fully.
Yeah.
But then he went on to be a coach, right? So I found Gideon and I says, I want to get back in table tennis. I know I'm not a spring chicken, but I'd still like to reach like top 100 because the players that I used to play against was like Abdul Ruella, who they were like top 15. But when we were top 60, these guys we had many problems on the table. So I found Gideon and was asking him, is he still coaching? And he says, nah, but I will introduce you to someone, Baraty. So I went to the academy and I met
I've seen some of those vids, you know. I've seen some of those vids where Ellie's up at your place doing it with the kids. It's brilliant.
And that's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, okay, so that's sort of giving us.
Sorry, I mean, what I was just going to say. So I did mention I never really saw myself getting into coaching, but I've been a retail manager, and obviously our question was, what made you become a coach?
Yeah.
And it's only, I suppose, I look back on my time as a retail manager and realised actually that's when I started coaching, and I enjoyed working in retail, but when I look back at it, the best thing I liked was taking kids on at 16 years old, and working with them for 2 years until they went off to university, and helping them progress in those 2 years. And I suppose that was really my first introduction to coaching. And I look back to what I learned in that period, and I work with how it works with what I do now as well. I can see the comparisons, and I suppose that's, again, it's the big thing. It's how you can help people to.
Well, it's like what Steve was saying as well. It's I think it's that feedback, isn't it? It's that you guys don't get an awful lot of recognition, in my opinion, for what you guys do. But I think
all coaches are really to help people, aren't they?
I think although it's, in my opinion, I think you guys should have loads of recognition for what you do. But I think from coaches' points of view, from what I can gather, I don't think you're overly concerned about the recognition part, because I think you get the recognition part from what you give and what you receive back from the people that you're coaching, and the responses that you get, and the success that they're doing is almost like that's the payback for you guys, isn't it? That's really the payback. Is it's not really, I'm Ellie and I've done this and I've done that, or I'm Elroy and I've done this and that. I don't think that's really the recognition part. The recognition that you guys really seek is from the players and how well they do from your input.
Yeah, definitely.
Over that time period. And I think that's probably worth more than the money, to be fair.
Yeah, for sure.
Am I right? Like deep down.
It is
nice to be paid.
It's clear it's worth more than money.
I always wonder when it comes to well-paid coaches, things like football and stuff, because they say the same things. They're in it for what you've just said.
Yeah.
And I sometimes wonder, you say, okay, you're earning $5 million a year. If you weren't earning that $5 million, would you still be in it?
Would you still do it?
I actually think a lot of them probably would do it, because I think a lot of them do love it. But there will be some who, and there's nothing wrong with it. saying, you know, I'm in it because I want to.
I want the
I want
paycheck.
money, and I want the fame and the admiration. I want
Yeah.
to provide for my family, whatever it might be. That's fine. That's fine.
But I think from sort of coaches and stuff like yourselves, and that it's more, isn't it? It's more than that.
I'll tell you how much I was in it for the money. This is true. This I come from an engineering background, and I didn't really enjoy my job, and I actually had quite a well-paid job at the time, and I started coaching. I was coaching, obviously, like most people, voluntary. I wasn't getting paid. And a young lad who I was coaching for a couple of years, he started getting quite good. He won't mind me using his name, Stephen Uppel. He got to about England under 10 junior, and then he went into acting. He's an actor now. And great lad, and the most dedicated player ever. And he offered me, I think I was earning at the time around about £500 a week on this, working on the rigs. And he offered me £70 a week to coach him 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. And I took it.
You were on 500 quid a week.
Yeah, and I honestly took it. I took his offer because I thought to myself, this is an opportunity. I'm guaranteed £70 a week. I've got a guaranteed £70 a week, and that's my starting point. And then I added other things. I sold things second hand. I did car boot sales, everything to make up the lack of money. But that's true. That he offered me £70, Stephen Uppel, and I took him on it.
Wow, that's some passion. That's some passion. That is. My missus would have killed me.
Yeah,
my missus would have killed me if I'd have said, "Oh, all right, love, I'm just going to do some coaching for 70 quid a week." She'd have just slapped me so hard. It's like we were saying, you know, it does go back to that. But I mean, you know, you guys have built quite a big reputation and stuff, and you know, you've got big followings and stuff. And all right, you might not be multi-millionaire coaches out of it and stuff, but you know, you know, if I think it's, you know, are you happy? Are you happy with what you're doing?
It's a great job, isn't it? It's a wonderful job.
Stevie, you said to me, it was really interesting. I came up to Swerve and I loved it, and I use it all the time now. You said to me, if I gave you £10 million a year, would you still be doing what you're doing today? And the answer is yes, I still would be coaching. So there you go. So the money is irrelevant.
It would be nice.
It would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice.
So anyone out there that just wants to just throw a little money at coaches, go for it.
It's second. It's definitely second.
Definitely second. Yeah, definitely second.
Cool. All right. Well,